things are disconnected, and to be willing to be a problem solver at a different level. Like you might have 2 or 3 months of, if you're in an agency or even a new hire into your team, of before you actually do any SEO work or any optimizing anything, just trying to troubleshoot and problem solve and connect the dots with dashboards and data that's everywhere and CRMs, things that have been neglected for years or have been built by certain teams and that aren't talking to each other. And whether that's a Fortune 500 or a 10-person company, those things exist, and they've always existed, but it's more important than ever to get the dots connected, because we can't just assume that everything's up and to the right. And I even see leads go through or e-commerce sales come through from search with a nice attribution string, that it's going to equal somebody saying good job in the ownership or C-suite or on the client side or in the stakeholder seats to actually understand that. And yeah, it has been fascinating to see how things have changed. You mentioned earlier talking about podcasts and strategy, and that's, again, some of the things that maybe aren't text on a page or a inbound link that you can see as an SEO from years ago. Maybe don't get thought about as much because it doesn't feel like indexable content, but all the collection of stuff is important, and how much you're willing to share knowledge and put it out there is important too. And there are all kinds of problems and question marks on trademark and defending it.
Oh
And
yeah.
if I give more to the LLMs, are they gonna rip me off into Google? Are they gonna rip me off even more? And so I'm not even going to wade into the legal side. How do you protect that? That's still to come in our industry in the next few years. But there's just so much about considering how much do you gate and keep close to the vest and maybe
Yeah.
not get found, versus how much do you freely give away. And I was reminded of this a little bit when you were talking about some of the education. My team yesterday was talking about, as going through interviewing and hiring for another search role, talking about the approach of, most of our clients don't care about the nerdiness and the super technical parts of it. But do we hold that back and water it down where and they don't get the impression or understanding of it enough? So we're like, we have it there, and we might give them 90 seconds of it before they
Yeah.
check out on us, and then get down to the level that they care about. And whether you're an agency or an in-house or whatever you're doing, I think that's important to be able to validate big pictures here will take you there, and you need some forced education even if you don't want to listen, versus chasing all those shiny objects and making it feel like the snake oil or crystal ball that it isn't if you're doing it properly, and to be able to demonstrate that shift. So I think that's part of the gap that we talked about too. There are people talking about it way out here on the exploratory end, and people who sound like it's outdated, and you can't validate if it's outdated or we're just making it more approachable, and where that middle ground is of how we work through it, talk about it, and educate stakeholders of where we're going and how messy it is now compared to how it's never not been messy, but how it was a little bit more linear and how we measured it 10 years ago.
Wow. You brought up some things that I will have to save, or maybe we'll bring you back for another discussion. I don't want to veer off too much into data hygiene issues internally, externally. But I would love to dive into in the kind of this last piece here about KPIs, and what were the KPIs you used to use? What are the KPIs you're using now? What do you think the KPI should be? Are there any tools that you're finding helpful? Like, let's give people like actionable steps on what they should actually be looking at. Cause I'll tell you right now, all this nerdiness is exciting for me. Like I love digging into it. I love the data. I love how it all connects together. Like that gets me going. So this re-evolution of the industry has been fantastic. And it's repositioning everybody at the starting gate. Right. And so certainly, people that have done everything right have an advantage, but for the most part, it's a reset, and I love that, um, and it's fun to compete. Now, but everybody else that's not thinking that way is like, oh my gosh, I went through another learning cycle here. I just went through digital transformation. I'm just now running ads since COVID. Like I figured it out and now I got to learn it again. And I'm trying to run my business. And, the private equity guys don't have a clue what is going on. They just want to dump their money into something. And so like, how do you measure this stuff? Like, or yeah, just how are you dealing with the KPI component of it? And I know we talked about that prior to going live.
Yeah. I'll go back to what we talked about starting at the furthest endpoint we can get, whether that's revenue or adjusted gross income or whatever it might be, of profitability, and working backwards to make sure that for us, in many cases, our dashboards get all the, if we can get attribution of search or digital marketing driven traffic like the old days all the way to through leads, and in many cases we're working B2B